Okay, I need every single one of you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what I'm about to share has my hands literally trembling as I type this. It's game day. It's May 4th, 2026. Tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, Madison Square Garden. Knicks versus Sixers, Eastern Conference Semifinals, Game 1. And less than 3 hours ago, Jalen Brunson sat himself down in front of a camera at the Garden for what everyone assumed would be a totally standard pregame interview with Malika Andrews on NBA Today. Routine stuff. Talk about the matchup, talk about Embiid, talk about Maxey, get the crowd fired up. That's what we all thought was coming. That is absolutely not what went down. Jalen Brunson, the undisputed king of New York, the man who just dragged this team through a historic first-round obliteration of the Atlanta Hawks, looked dead into that camera and dropped the most devastating, most personal, most explosive media takedown of Stephen A. Smith that I have ever witnessed from any Knick in the modern era. I'm talking a full 10-minute monologue that cut through everything. Stephen A. labeling the Knicks frauds, the noise from doubters who never believed Brunson could carry the weight of this spotlight, the real tension brewing inside that locker room, the game plan for tonight, and then a deeply personal confession that visibly broke him down on camera. I had to pause the stream physically and just breathe for a second. Let me take you through every single word of it. Hey, what's good everyone? Real quick before we dive in, that like button is literally the engine that decides whether this video reaches 100 people or 100,000. 1 second of your time means everything to this channel's growth. Go ahead and smash that like button right now. The easiest thing you'll do all day, and honestly, the most powerful way you can back this content. Every like genuinely pushes this video further out, so hit it now. All right. Here's the context you absolutely need before any of this makes sense. Over the last 48 hours, Stephen A. Smith has been doing what Stephen A. does better than anyone on the planet, completely and shamelessly flip-flopping. On Friday, right after the Knicks dismantled Atlanta 140-89 in that legendary Game 6 with a jaw-dropping, record-setting 47-point halftime lead, Stephen A. was on First Take screaming from the rooftops that the Knicks are the team of destiny and that Madison Square Garden is going to bring it all the way home this season. He was celebrating like he personally hit the game winner, dancing around the set, pumping his fists like a man possessed. But then, Saturday happened, and after the Sixers pulled off their absolutely miraculous 3-1 comeback to take down Boston in Game 7, Stephen A. did a full 180 on live television. He went on air and said, and I'm paraphrasing, "I'm genuinely concerned about Jalen Brunson against this Philadelphia defense. Can he truly sustain his level against a team that just eliminated the second-best squad in the entire East? Embiid is a different animal, and Embiid is simply going to be too much for the Knicks front court to handle." The man spent a solid 15 minutes publicly questioning whether Brunson had what it takes in the semifinals. This after spending the entire previous day calling those same Knicks completely unstoppable. And listen, the players saw every single word of it. Malika opened the interview by asking Brunson about the atmosphere building inside the Garden tonight, and Brunson's response started calm, almost uncomfortably, eerily calm. The Garden is about to become something you have never witnessed before. Our fans have shown up for us in ways that go beyond anything I could have imagined. They held us down when Philadelphia had us backed into a corner, down 2-1 to Atlanta. They were screaming their lungs out the night we dropped that historic 47-point halftime lead on the league.
And tonight, oh tonight, they are going to shake the walls of that building like never before, because everything we have sacrificed, every grueling practice, every doubt, every setback, it has all been pointing to this exact moment. This is it. But then Malika dropped the name nobody in that room was ready for. She brought up what Stephen A. said on Saturday, his whole take questioning whether Brunson could actually hold his own against Philadelphia's defense. And I need you to understand, the energy in that studio shifted instantly. Brunson's eyes, which had been warm and composed just seconds before, went ice cold faster than you could blink. He leaned his whole body forward, laced his fingers together like a man who had been rehearsing this conversation in his head for 3 days straight, and then, barely loud enough to be a whisper, he said, "Malika, I am so glad you brought that up, because I have been sitting on this since Saturday morning, and I think it is time the whole world hears exactly what I have to say." What came out of Jalen Brunson's mouth next was the most unfiltered, brutally real, and genuinely spine-chilling monologue I have ever heard from any professional athlete during this entire playoff season. "Stephen A. Smith," Brunson started, locking his gaze directly into the camera, "I watched your show on Saturday. I watched you settle into that chair and openly question whether I have what it takes to survive the semifinals. You said you were concerned about me, that Philly's defense might make me crumble under the pressure. And here is what I find absolutely fascinating about that. You said the identical thing before we played Atlanta. You sat in that same chair and announced that if the Knicks dropped that series, heads needed to roll. You wanted Mike Brown's job gone. You wanted the front office completely dismantled. You wanted everyone out the door. And then, when we went down 2-1, you went on national television and screamed to the world that the Knicks were a fraud. A fraud. Your word, not mine. But now, after we clawed back and won 3 consecutive games, after we outscored Atlanta by 105 points across 6 games, which is the 3rd largest scoring margin in a playoff series in NBA history, now suddenly you want to climb back on the bandwagon and preach about destiny. And then, not even 24 hours later, you flip right back to questioning me. Pick a side, Stephen A. Either you believe in us or you do not, but stop changing your whole opinion every single time the wind shifts direction, because I see you, we see you, and we do not want your fake support. Not today, not ever. The studio went completely still. Malika's pen had stopped dead on the page. Tim Legler was leaning so far out of his seat I genuinely thought gravity was about to win, and Brunson was nowhere near finished. "You want to have a real conversation about pressure?" he continued, his voice never once cracking. "You want to sit there and question whether I can handle a semifinal series? Then let me hand you my resume and you can tell me what you see. I averaged 26 points and 6.8 assists across this entire regular season. I now own the record for the most 30-plus point playoff performances in New York Knicks franchise history with 22 games. In Game 5 against Atlanta, I put up 39 points on 65% shooting and handed out 8 assists. I shot 46.7% from the field and 37.3% from beyond the arc this season. And in December, against the Miami Heat, I went out and dropped 47 points on that floor. I've been an all-star, so let's start right there. I've been the guy they hand the ball to when the game is on the line, and we walked away with the NBA Cup."
And you're sitting across from me, Stephen A., genuinely asking whether I can handle pressure? Listen to this. I took a pay cut to stay in New York. I could have chased the bag somewhere else and nobody would have blamed me. I chose the Garden. I chose this city. I chose this because pressure is where I come alive. I was built for exactly what's coming tonight. And if you haven't figured that out yet after everything I've put on the floor in this uniform, then you have not been watching closely enough, and that's on you, not me. Then Brunson completely shifted the energy in the room, and hold up, this is where things stopped being personal and got ice-cold tactical. "Since we're being real today," Brunson said, "let me put the elephant directly in the middle of the table, Joel Embiid. Everyone keeps bringing up Joel Embiid like it's supposed to make us flinch. Stephen A. went on national television and declared that Embiid would devour our front court. He said we simply don't have the size to even slow him down. He said flat out that the Knicks aren't equipped for what's heading our way." Brunson let that sit in the air for a second, and a quiet, knowing smile crept across his face. Joel Embiid had an emergency appendectomy on April 9th. He returned 17 days later and played 4 games in the Celtics series.
Right now, he's managing a right hip contusion that he picked up in Game 7 on Saturday. The man is a warrior. I'll give him every bit of that credit. 34 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists in a road Game 7 in Boston? That's genuinely remarkable. But here's the question nobody in that building has the guts to ask out loud. How long can his body actually sustain this? He appeared in 38 games during the regular season. 38! He hasn't played more than 6 games back-to-back since January. And now he's supposed to walk into the most ferocious arena in basketball, Madison Square Garden, facing the most physical front court he's seen all postseason with a banged-up hip after grinding through 4 games in 12 days, 2 of which went completely down to the wire? Girl, that's not a favorable matchup for Embiid. That is a matchup that tilts directly in our favor. Then Brunson zeroed in on something about the Sixers that genuinely caught everyone off guard. People won't stop talking about Philadelphia's momentum, he said. They clawed back from 3-1 down. They beat the Celtics in a road Game 7. Respect where it's due. They look like they're unstoppable right now. But let me hand you a completely different lens to look through. Philadelphia had to go 7 brutal games against a Boston squad that was without Jason Tatum in the clincher due to knee stiffness. They squeezed out every last drop of energy they had just to survive and advance. Embiid went 2 for 9 in the fourth quarter of Game 7. You won't believe this. He was running on empty. Maxey had to personally score Philly's final 8 points because everyone else around him had nothing left in the tank. Paul George was battling through an illness on his own birthday just to suit up. And their bench? Their bench combined for 3 total points in a winner-take-all Game 7. All 3 coming from Quentin Grimes. 3 bench points in a Game 7? Let that land. Meanwhile, what were we doing? We closed out Atlanta on Wednesday. That was 5 days ago. We've spent that time resting, running practice, breaking down film, and constructing a surgical game plan tailored to this Philadelphia team. Mike Brown had 6 entire games to study the Sixers, while they were clawing and scratching to survive Boston. We know their tendencies cold. We know every rotation before they run it. We know exactly when Embiid hits that wall, when Maxey starts making sloppy decisions, and when their entire defensive scheme falls apart at the seams. So sure, Philly's riding that momentum wave, but we're sitting on a mountain of preparation. And listen to this, in a 7-game series, preparation doesn't just beat momentum, it suffocates it.
The interview cut to commercial, and when it returned, something in Brunson's whole presence had completely transformed. Now he was speaking about his guys, and this is the moment where everything got genuinely raw. "I have to say something about this locker room," Brunson began, his voice dropping low, "because the outside world has no idea what we've actually survived together. When we were staring down a 2-1 deficit against Atlanta, when Stephen A. was on television demanding blood, when Kendrick Perkins was out here calling our fan base spoiled and out of touch, when Mikal Bridges got glued to the bench and went scoreless in Game 3 with a -26 and 4 turnovers, when literally everybody had already written our obituary, you know what went down inside that locker room? We pulled tighter, not apart, tighter. OG Anunoby showed up with coffee for Mikal the morning after Game 3 because he understood his brother was carrying a heavy load. Karl Anthony Towns called Mikal at midnight after that benching. Josh Hart fired off a long text. I walked over to Mikal's apartment and we sat there dissecting film together for 3 straight hours. And then, hold up, what did Mikal do in Game 6? He went out there and torched them for 24 points on 10 of 12 shooting. That is this team's DNA. We don't disappear on our brothers when things turn ugly. We show up harder, and that is exactly why Stephen A. Smith will never crack this group. He only orbits winners. We orbit each other, always. Then Brunson pivoted to Mitchell Robinson, and what followed was equal parts warning shot and open challenge. "Mitch is going to be absolutely pivotal tonight," Brunson said without blinking. He put up 5.7 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks across roughly 20 minutes per game this season. Girl, the man shot 72.3% from the floor. That efficiency is absurd. He put the entire league on notice with that legendary 22-rebound performance against Indiana back in March, and his spark off the bench is shaping up to be the X factor Philly cannot prepare for against Embiid. Because here's the thing about Embiid that nobody wants to say out loud, he fades.
He's been grinding through injuries the entire season, and every single minute he rests on that bench is an opportunity. We need Mitch to make whoever Philadelphia throws out there, whether that's Andre Drummond or Adem Bona, absolutely miserable. We need Mitch owning the glass, protecting the rim, and sending a physical message from the opening tip. Then Brunson's jaw tightened and his tone hardened. But Mitch has to stay locked in mentally, no exceptions. He got himself ejected in Game 6 against Atlanta after getting into it with Dyson Daniels. We were up by 40 at that point, so the damage was 0. But tonight, if Mitch picks up a flagrant or gets tossed while Embiid is out there breathing down our necks, that could be the moment that unravels everything we've built. I looked him dead in the eye and said it with my whole chest. Mitch, forget proving a point tonight. This is about getting the win. Play smart, play physical, but do not lose your head out there. And he stared back at me and said, JB, I got you. And honestly, that was enough. Then Brunson shifted gears and got razor sharp about the Cat versus Embiid showdown. And listen, he was not playing around. Cat finished the regular season leading the entire league with 56 double-doubles, Brunson stated. He's locked in, he's healthy, and he just bulldozed through the Hawks, averaging 18.7 points, 11.3 rebounds, and 6 assists. He was the guy in that series, and now he's stepping into the most talked-about center matchup of these entire playoffs against Joel Embiid. And here's something I know about Cat that people outside this locker room don't fully appreciate. This man has been starving for a moment like this his whole career.
He's never punched through to the second round, never owned a signature playoff run against a true MVP-level big man. Hold up. Tonight at Madison Square Garden, with 20,000 people going absolutely insane, that chapter finally gets written. I watched him in practice all week, and girl, the look in that man's eyes said everything words couldn't. The way he's been grinding, the way he's been locked in, Stephen A can hype Embiid until he's blue in the face, but Cat is about to make everybody rethink everything tonight. Write that down. Brunson then turned his attention to Philadelphia's supporting cast and did not sugarcoat a single word. Let's talk about the rest of the Sixers for a second, he said, because everybody keeps funneling the conversation straight to Embiid and Maxey. And sure, respect where it's due, but zoom out and look at the whole roster. Paul George sat out 25 games this season due to a banned substance suspension. 25 games! He walks back in and suddenly the narrative is that he's refreshed and playoff ready? He's battling an illness right now and managed 13 points in Game 7 on his birthday while sick. That's gritty, no doubt, but that is not the version of Paul George that's going to keep us up at night. And VJ Edgecombe, the rookie, yes, he dropped 23 in one flashy performance. One game. He's got real talent, but he has never breathed the air of a semifinal series at Madison Square Garden against a defense specifically constructed to smother everything he's good at. And their bench scored 3 total points in Game 7. 3 points from Quentin Grimes, who used to rock a Knicks jersey, by the way. We know every single tendency that man has. So when Stephen A pumps up Philadelphia like they're this terrifying machine, he's really just talking about 2 human beings, Embiid and Maxey. And while those 2 are genuinely elite, basketball is a team sport. And as a team, we go deeper, come more prepared, and are absolutely hungrier. Then, Brunson pulled the curtain on something that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Coach Brown sat us down and ran film yesterday, Brunson revealed. We dissected every single Philadelphia game from that Celtics series, and let me tell you, we found something that is going to change everything tonight. When Embiid faces a pick and roll and has to decide whether to stay attached to the big or rotate onto the ball handler, he crashes toward the ball 73% of the time. So the second I run pick and roll with Cat and Embiid bites on me, Karl Anthony is standing wide open, face up, clean look, no contest. And Cat, who is absolutely scorching from 3 at over 40% against Atlanta, is going to devour those open opportunities. Absolutely. This is what 5 days of preparation looks like while Philly was in survival mode, gasping through a Game 7 against Boston. We understand their tendencies at a level they haven't even begun to study about us, and that intel is the sharpest weapon we're bringing into tonight's game.
Brunson wrapped the interview with something that hit like a part victory speech, part vow to an entire city. He locked eyes directly into that camera and said, "Tonight is game one." Everything we ground through all season, every single night, was building toward this exact moment. We went 53-29. We captured the NBA Cup. We posted a 30-10 record at home, one of the elite marks in the entire Eastern Conference. ESPN's model has us at 77% to win tonight, and honestly, I couldn't care less about their algorithm. I don't live in percentages, and I don't lose sleep over predictions. There is only one thing that I am wired to chase, and that is winning. And tonight, the second I hit that floor, the second that garden erupts, the second I look across and see Embiid and Maxey and George staring back at me, there's only going to be one feeling running through my body.
Because that is exactly what happens when I am completely locked in. The noise disappears, the cameras disappear, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world completely disappear, and all that remains is the game, the ball, the rim, and me doing the only thing I was ever built to do in the greatest arena on this planet, in front of the most passionate fans alive, playing for a city that hasn't touched the finals since 1999 and hasn't held that trophy since 1973. And I am promising you, on everything and everyone I love, that I will drain every last ounce of myself on that court tonight. Every burst of energy, every drop of sweat, every single possession. Because this is my garden. This is our moment. And nobody, not Embiid, not Maxey, not the city of Philadelphia, and absolutely not Stephen A. Smith, is walking out of here with what belongs to us. Now hold up, because there is genuinely a lot to unpack from everything Brunson just said, and my analysis starts here. The single most critical thing he touched on was the gap between preparation and the momentum narrative. The rest advantage for New York is not minor, it is massive. The Knicks closed out Atlanta 5 full days ago on Wednesday, while Philly was still bleeding through a brutal Game 7 in Boston on Saturday. That gives Philadelphia a 2-day window to travel, practice, and mentally reset against a completely different opponent in a building that will be absolutely hostile. Listen to this. In NBA playoff history, teams that steal Game 1 go on to win that series 75.3% of the time. If New York can exploit Philly's exhausted legs tonight, they could effectively decide the entire series before it even gets started. Second, and this one is criminally underreported, the Embiid health situation might be the most important storyline this whole series is sitting on. Embiid is listed as probable, nursing a right hip contusion he picked up in that brutal Game 7. He gutted through 4 consecutive games after missing the entire first 3 games of the Celtics series, recovering from an appendectomy. Before that stretch, he hadn't strung together more than 6 straight games since January. Let that sink in. This man is running on pure adrenaline, sheer determination, and whatever the training staff is cooking up in that medical room. And now he's walking into a Knicks front court loaded with Cat, Mitchell Robinson, and the absolutely menacing OG Anunoby, who torched the Hawks for 21.5 points, 8.7 rebounds, 2.1 steals, and 1.2 blocks per game. Hold up. The physicality Embiid is about to face is going to be suffocating, relentless, and absolutely unforgiving. Every single bucket, every board, every inch of real estate on that floor is going to be a full-on war. And in a potential 7-game slugfest, that kind of punishment compounds fast on a body that just came out of emergency surgery. Third, and listen to this, the Mikal Bridges redemption arc might be the most compelling subplot of this entire series. Bridges went off for 24 points on 10 of 12 shooting in Game 6 against Atlanta after being benched in Games 3 and 4. The million-dollar question nobody can answer right now is which Mikal Bridges shows up when Philly comes to town. If Coach Brown slots him onto Tyrese Maxey, who dropped 28.3 points and 6.6 assists in the regular season, and 26.3 points against Boston, that becomes one of the most critical defensive assignments in the entire Eastern Conference. Bridges' elite length and jaw-dropping 638-game consecutive streak scream toughness, durability, and elite conditioning. But girl,
Going scoreless in Game 3 with 4 turnovers isn't something you just sweep under the rug. That ghost is still hanging around. How Tom Brown navigates his minutes and matchup decisions could genuinely flip the outcome of this entire series. And here's the bottom line. Jalen Brunson just delivered the coldest pregame statement we've heard all postseason. He looked at Stephen A. Smith dead in the camera and told him to pick a side, no hesitation. He declared to the entire basketball world that the Knicks are locked in, well-rested, and absolutely ready for whatever Philadelphia brings. He sent a message directly to his locker room that this brotherhood cannot be cracked, broken, or rattled by anyone. And he told Madison Square Garden that tonight belongs to New York. And honestly, you believe every single word coming out of his mouth. Game 1 is just hours away, and I genuinely cannot remember the last time a first-round matchup had me this fired up.